Okay, well that's how we're opening the video. What's up, everybody? We got the Hyper Coliseum Skeleton crew here. Howdy, folks. I hope you guys are having a lovely day. Welcome to our Booster 2.0 tier list. We have myself, Jorel.
Hey.
That's not Jorel, that's Arby. All right, we have Arby.
Hey.
Okay. All right, and I am Ben. I am not TJ. I am Ben today. But yeah, so we're just gonna go through some of the most relevant decks in the format. I think we pretty much have a good selection of just about everything here that like encompasses stuff that might even just be like sort of like different top end or different little bits of cores and stuff. But yeah, so you know that's about it. If you're watching this video and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, you should do that. It's pretty cool. We're doing lots of cool things, and we'd love to have you along with the ride for the ride with us. And if you enjoy the video, think about giving it a like too. Would also be pretty cool. And if you're someone who's been here for a while and you want to keep supporting us boys, think about becoming a member. We got the deck, the members first deck profiles that we're doing every week on top of our weekly deck check, a little sort of podcasty-esque deck review stuff that we do every week. So I think that's about all the yip yap from me. Let's go ahead and jump into the tier list. Shall we, fellas?
Yeah.
All right, we don't have Ben to keep us on the rails, so we can get a little crazy here. Mirage, get out of here! No, just kidding. No. So first up is just Mirage. So this is supposed to be just pure, more like blue base Mirage, not the moonwalking as Risu likes to call it. Shout out Risu, or the Galaxy core. This is using Huankuns and Galgamon stuff, yada yada. I don't know where to put this. I'm gonna be honest. It's a kind of a conundrum out the gate.
Right now.
It's definitely low-end contenders, like starting to border Rogue, kinda.
Yeah, that's
It's
how I feel.
Still a solid deck, but like, there's so much aggression here. It's hard for Mirage to like counteract stuff when it gets going.
Yeah, it really needs to high roll right now. I agree with that. Yeah, I think low end of contenders is probably pretty good because it still can pop off and do some stuff. We still see it performing decently well.
You can still OTK. You're just not as like probably as consistent or as aggressive as the hybrid builds.
Yeah, agreed. Next up, Galacti. So keep in mind, I do also have some like any decks that just got like support, even if it was 2 cards, 3 cards. Sorry, I apologize. I to all my Galacti stands out there. I'm sorry. I think this is pretty quick. It's the new pieces actually do help a lot. The Tamer control that you have with the promo Destro is actually really good. Zenith is a decent card for the deck. We also have Shadows for Effie Ace that we can use now for Ace plays with the Destro. The new Vemmon and Snatchmon are also good cards. But at the end of the day, I think Galacti's just general strategy is more the issue than like those support pieces itself. I think we need a new Galactimon. I think he himself is just, he's a good card, but he's not fast enough for how the meta is, or that, or he passes over too much memory.
Not a good enough top end to justify the effort of going through everything else.
Yeah, he's too, DP reduction's so big right now. That's his biggest issue. He doesn't DP climb as well as the other decks do. So yeah, I think that's pretty quick there. Shang. We recently saw Shang get 3rd place at the recent Core TCG regional that both Panda and Risu commentated.
Still a Rogue deck.
yeah, I think it's Rogue. I was gonna agree. It's definitely not pilot oriented because I don't think it's that hard to pilot necessarily. There's definitely some more nuanced plays you can do with it, but it's not like it's low end. Like its floor is high enough that it can perform.
Yeah.
Make Marcus swing Marcus evil Rise Gray.
You know what? Man, you solved it, bro. You just
that's the equation.
I didn't know the Sphinx was here with the riddles. Or no, you're the solution. I'm the Sphinx with the riddles. You have the solutions. Ignore me. It's fine. Birds. Phoenix. Oh, I don't have Zafaga and Sendril on here. I'll draw them in or something. I don't know. I'll draw them in post or something. That's my bad. Whoops. Yeah. Sorry, I said birds and then instantly put my brain in there. We'll do a cut. I'll add them in after. It doesn't matter. Anyways, okay. Phoenix.
Birds had a pretty decent showing last meta.
Yes.
This meta, I think it's still possible.
Birds is still kind of rogue.
topped. It's still kind of rogue. I think it's more pilot oriented than rogue though. I think the floor is not very high for it. I think you have to be very, very good with the deck to actually pop off with it, and then also pray that you just don't run into a deck that bounces you.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Because it's hard to pilot. It gets really difficult when you get to your top end stuff.
On top of being hard counter by some of the decks out there, yeah, it does really need like a solid pilot to know.
What do you mean? You don't just use all of your on deletion / end of attack effects at the same time.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Sequencing doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. You definitely can't mess yourself over.
First.
I'm gonna use the rush effect. Okay, now I'm gonna play the Digimon.
Oh god.
Yeah, it was pretty good there. Tyrant.
Ooh.
Tyrant is a scary deck that doesn't do anything. It's like
kind of low contenders.
Low contender. Do you think it's?
You think it's contenders?
We haven't seen a Tyrant top in a while. It hasn't gotten top 16 in a hot minute.
I mean, it is on top of being like a really, I think, difficult to pilot deck. It's so slow. It's so slow.
I think
to
it's
everything else.
I almost want to say top of Rogue.
Also fair.
I don't think it's quite contender. I think it has fallen to the wayside in Rogue. It's definitely scary, but a lot of the like top decks don't really like care about it all too much, admittedly. But it's also one of those decks where like when you play into it at a regional, you're like, oh, this sucks. If they see Tyrant, this just kind of sucks, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
I mean, I still lose to it.
Same. So do I. But then we also just see it never perform in regionals because it just isn't consistent, I guess. So.
I was gonna say, Arby, you play Demon Lords. All your effects are Digimon effects.
That's true. That's true. Well, he has a lot of options though. He runs like Rivals Barrage and stuff.
I guess.
Yeah, you run the Rivals.
You know what? For now, let's toss the top of Rogue for now. As we're going through the list, if we feel like it deserves to bounce up to contenders, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Speaking of contenders.
Let's see. Speaking of contenders.
Yeah.
Imperial's meta defining, right? Not just a contender.
I feel like new stuff has kept it more in check.
Yeah, there's a lot more Chamber Destruction now.
I agree. My only reasoning for this is that I think that people play a lot of Floodgates. We're already playing like play by effect Floodgates for Imperial specifically. They've just become even more relevant because of Lord Knight.
Right.
Because you still have to be mindful of Source Strip. You still have to be mindful of having Chamber Control in your deck if you have access to it. You have to be mindful of playing rookies by effect. Floodgate rookies as well are also still very big against Imperial. Like I think you're forced to sort of keep it in mind and build your deck around it when you're putting stuff together. I don't think it's just a contender. It's still, and it also is still topping consistently, especially the armors variant.
I'd say that's fair. Yeah, I'd say that's fair to say. Like it is topping. It is having like good results in both North America and Japan.
It's just not like winning. But I will say in fairness to you, Jorel, I do think it is at the very edge of meta defining. I think it's at the edge of meta defining top of contenders. I don't think it's like I don't think it's clearly like this is the #1 deck.
Yeah. The issue is it was like probably the meta defining deck. Like this was the gatekeeper for a long time, and now the cards have been warped around it.
Yeah. We'll put it up there and we'll just see how the list goes. If we feel like it needs to scoot, we can scoot it. V armors. This is supposed to be V armors. It could also be Imperial armor variant as well, which is seeing about the same amount of success, honestly. It's not really any like too crazy different. I feel like it's contenders, like lower end of contenders, above Mirage. I would say for sure. It's seeing more like results, I think, than standard Mirage at least.
Around the same point as Imperial.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's still having a big body that's immune to stuff. Once it gets going.
The thing for the V armors is
early.
They're just not as consistent as Vaccine armors was with the protection, so you can play around it a lot more easily.
Yeah, that's very true.
But it is scary.
It is still a scary deck, yes.
Yeah. Big guy.
It lost a lot of tools.
It did. They have significantly shot that boy down. They old yellowed him. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And he's not even a dog. But you know who is a dog?
Yeah.
Ancient Gar.
Ooh. Ancient Gar. I mean, in a similar fashion, the hurting the Ukomon package did a lot more to this deck than we realized. I don't know. Do you guys think it's as fast? Yeah.
We haven't seen it top at all. It's been a minute since it's done.
I don't think it's as fast as the other hybrid decks.
Red Hybrid somehow has just become like the best hybrid deck. It's just, I think it's better than Purple Hybrid, low-key, to be honest. It's seen better results too.
It might not be as consistent as Purple Hybrid, but it's so explosive, and that's like when you're in a tournament scene and you just need to like be lucky some games.
Yeah.
This deck does more degenerate stuff than Purple Hybrid does, I think, with less resources.
Yeah, I agree. So I think
I would say maybe higher end of
top
Rogue
of Rogue. Yeah, I'd say top of Rogue. It's still a good card. The deck can still do a lot. Keep in mind, Rogue picks are decks they can definitely top. They can still do things. It's not consistent as much as like contenders and meta-defining decks are. Okay. Red Hybrid, Jorel, this is up to you. I want to say meta-defining personally.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, can you really say meta-defining when like it has one gameplay?
Yes. Yeah,
I would say that sometimes those are the most.
Sometimes that defines the meta, whether or not you can withstand that game plan.
It is quite literally just go faster than.
Yep.
Or just they don't see anything.
Across like so many different card games, like Magic the Gathering, there will always be a red deck wins, and this guy is red deck wins.
It really is.
Heads up, we just got a random sub, so that's gonna be in the recording. Just so everyone knows.
Go.
Thanks whoever subscribed just a second ago.
Call them out.
I didn't turn alerts off. That's fine.
I don't know, cause like the only thing this really loses to is blockers. Like,
yeah,
I haven't fought it against Mother Control yet, but like.
But even then, you have piercing now too, at least so you can actually get the damage in, which helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can be a big boy.
It's I can see the idea. I think I could honestly see the argument for it being like the top contender that doesn't define the meta. It's just such a good contender.
There's nothing you really tech in against Red Hybrid.
Yeah,
it kind of just does what it wants.
I think you just keep in mind how fast you're playing against. Like oh, I have to win faster than them, and I have to make sure I don't chip the security. I try and OTK them because if I chip, I might just get the resources to kill me.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We'll put topic contenders right now because I don't think it defines the meta as much. Because the thing is, its game plan is something you can't really build around either. To be fair, it's something where you kind of like, oh. They're gonna just do what they're gonna do, and I can't really stop it unless my deck has Tamer control. Which at that point, that's just kind of the game plan for most decks. It's not something you tech in anymore.
Yeah, fair.
Aside from like Quartzmon. Quartzmon's like a tech card for certain decks. But anyways, moving on from that, Doru. And see, this is the hard thing about doing this tier list for us is that we don't have like JP results to really go off of. Our meta is entirely different from what JP was because we don't have access to Cross, Blue Flare. Like we don't have other decks checking certain cards. So we have so many like different, or at least our results kind of skew very differently, I think.
Where do you think this, in your experience playing with and against this deck?
As someone who played a lot of it, who's played against it a good bit, I want to say either Rogue or Pilot. It's a deck that I think deck store is still strong. It's still good. Like even tonight, when we're recording this right after I just got done doing the commentary with Risu on the recent Eagle Gaming box tourney. One of Risu's local players was playing SOC, and I think he did decent. I think he went 3-0 or went 2-1-1. Yeah. He did okay. apologies if I'm misremembering your record, but from what I know, the deck can still have some okay matchups, but it has to win early. Like, it has to win early and get ahead. Otherwise, it just takes too long. Like, if it's a deck that, if it bricks or it spends too long looking for pieces, it just can fall behind and really struggle. But keep in mind, it's also a deck that can play with 0 security and just have such a strong board that you can't touch them.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Rogue. I think I'm going to say Rogue. I think that its floor is high enough that you can still do some decent stuff with it. I want to say it hovers around Tyrant because I feel like it's about as scary to run into as Tyrant, but it also isn't seeing results either. Yeah. It's just one of those decks where it's like, oh, it's a boogeyman, but you can play around it. It's just scarier, like, in concept than it actually is in play, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on. We won't linger on it too long. I think that's fine. Omni Ace, DNA.
Omni Ace, this deck also, I want to say pilot oriented.
That's what I want to say too.
Yeah.
Just because it's, I don't know, it's tough to understand when you have to go for things. And you could definitely, accidentally flub the game.
Yeah.
With some of your plays, because the Omni Ace doesn't really have protections.
No. It's a card. I mean, Miraculous Knight is basically your protection for your level 6s to get into Omni and counterplay your opponent. But if your opponent has protections, then you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I lose.
It's definitely an interesting card, and it has moments where it pops off like crazy. I think that's, but it also like struggles against those matchups where it doesn't have anything to target, or it just doesn't get the level 6s out fast enough.
Yeah.
And then once it becomes Omni Ace, if the opponent kills Omni Ace, you're SOL.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pilot Orange is smart for it. I think its ceiling is high enough that it can do some crazy stuff, but the floor is so low for it that if you don't play it right or know your timings against certain decks, you just kind of go weh. Weh. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, moving on. Fenry. I think this is just.
That's meta defining.
It's meta defining.
It's such a strong deck when it gets going.
It's another deck that you run floodgates for to the best of your ability to try and stop it. When you see it and you know it's in tourney, you have to set your deck to have a certain pacing to it, because if you don't, you're gonna just lose. Yeah, it forces you to keep it in mind for anything that you do.
And it's hard to give like your opponent sometimes to memory, because if they have a way to get to.
It doesn't even matter if they have 2. I mean, if they have a tamer, if they have the pieces they need, it doesn't matter what memory you put them to, they're going to probably win the game at that point. Yeah. 9 times out of 10. It's a nearly unstoppable combo.
Yeah, it's one of the strongest OTK decks in the meta for sure.
Yeah. It's scary. And as we get more tools that let us like hit trash and like utilize trash better, it's only going to get scarier as time moves on. Especially because we know it's getting more support too with BT20, which is crazy to me. Oh man. Moving on. Millenni. I think that there is a lot of good pieces in Millenni.
Yeah.
I think that the Millenni deck itself is down here.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Galacti. I think the deck can do a lot of cool stuff. Having access to Tamer control is really powerful. As somebody who loves the deck and has been playing it a fair bit, it definitely can have some crazy pop-off games, but 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be too slow compared to contenders and meta-defining decks.
Yeah, you're this deck, you're kind of just, trying to do as much as you can to get into that, that level 7 Millennium on. It requires a lot of level 7s. It requires like level 6s and 5s. It doesn't just have really doesn't have room for the lower end. And then when it does come into play, I feel like it doesn't do enough. Like, would you agree that it doesn't do enough for how much it like effort it takes to bring out like different Millennium ons?
I think it does a lot. I think it just passes over way too much memory. That's more the issue.
Yeah.
You can have plays that you can definitely make your conservative plays if you see the right cards. Don't get me wrong. Like you can be pretty efficient with it. But I think just one thing missing the Shademon. I know like there's debate about Nene being bait or whatnot. I myself think she's bait without Shademon. To just get that extra search and setup consistency for her while also establishing a level 4 body on board. Like I think, you know, there's potential with that whole sort of situation there. But because we don't have that shade, you're kind of stuck playing the deck a little bit differently, and it's not bad. Like we run trainings and stuff like that to kind of maximize as much efficiency as possible. But oftentimes you still just pass over way too much memory and end up just sort of like, if your opponent can't counterplay you, which it can be hard to remove Millennium on once he's on the board for sure. But if they can counterplay you, you kind of just lose. If they can't, then you're in a pretty good spot. But even then, it might have taken you too long to get there, and you might still just lose.
Yeah.
So, it's tough, but I think it's a decent deck. I don't think it's the worst. I'm putting it in here because I do think that like against Mother Control, who's a huge gatekeeper right now, you just cry.
Yeah.
You can pop the Tamers, but Mother Control doesn't often accrue a huge hand size, so even that's hard to do.
So many decks have like that horrible matchup.
Yeah, that is something that we have to keep in mind with all these too. Is this Mother Control a problem for the decks? Because that's a deck that's definitely meta defining for sure.
Yeah.
Moving on. We have Emperor Grey Susanoo hybrid. So this is the more like you run Tommy, Zoe, Takuya Koji's variant of Emperor Grey, where you're sort of like trying to play around with that whole new archetype with the wind, ice, and fire spirit stuff.
Yep.
Bro, you've kind of messed around with this a little bit, right? Well, at least you messed around with the Emperor, or you've messed around with the Emperor.
Not at a single point in time have I touched this.
Have you? Well, the Emperor Grey though, you've used the new Emperor Grey, right? Or no?
No.
Oh, never mind.
I don't think he has. I think it's mostly Ben, but
from what I understand of it, it's just too slow.
Yeah.
It's too slow.
It needs so many pieces to function.
It has no protections.
It's trying to Voltron without like the Voltron being protected against anything.
Yeah, it needs gas. It needs more gas to it. It just doesn't have what it needs. So I think that's fine. I think we just leave it there and call it a day.
Second I got Ancient Grey, Emperor was an afterthought in my mind.
Yeah, that's fair.
I haven't played Emperor since BC12.
That's fair.
No.
Okay. Moving on. So Blue Hybrid. This is Blue Hybrid Source Strip using things like Hexablah and whatnot. Maybe
pure
this...
Blue Hybrid.
I think Rogue.
Question.
I think it's a Ben question, but I also think it's Rogue. I think it has. I think Ice Cloud is very powerful. I think it can gain memory pretty decently. Source Strip is very scary in this current meta because you can definitely just strip a lot of decks down to have nothing. They just cry. I don't think it's amazing. Obviously, it's not doing anything crazy with top picks, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the deck. I think that if it's all the right matchups for a day, it could definitely do it, like most other Rogue decks. And I don't think it's pilot oriented because I don't think the floor is so low that you'll just cry and lose hard if you don't do things, because you can stun a lot of stuff with this deck too. So I think that's fine there. I don't think it's better than Shine though. I think this is probably like the true bottom of Rogue, where it could definitely kind of fall into Feels Mother Control or falls into pilot oriented.
Yeah.
Magnar, just toss it there. The deck's cool.
The new top ends like Magnar, and Emperor Grey, they require so much memory.
Yeah.
In
5 cost Evo with nothing to help really.
Yeah.
Make. I mean, they have the option.
They don't do enough for the cost. That's the big thing.
Yeah. They're too fair for their cost. They're way too fair for their cost. They have good effects, but it's just too fair. So I think it's just down there where like the deck, I mean, it at least uses like part of the purple hybrid engine with the Lois and Kaisers, which is a bit more consistent. Digivolve access is a little bit better, so I think it's actually better than Emperor, admittedly, with just some of the control that it has access to and how it can play with security. It also has the promo Magnar, which is nice, but at the end of the day, I think the deck is just too slow and does not do enough to get too crazy with top stuff.
with all the purple hybrid stuff, sometimes you're just better off playing, purple hybrid.
Yeah.
Because there's no need for that deck to go into Magna Guru.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna move Fenry in front of Imperial because I think Fenry's more meta defining than Imperial is at this point.
I think right now, definitely.
Yeah, it's scary right now. Mother Control. So this is what this is. It's not D Reaper. This is Mother Control. I probably should just put Shoto in here instead of Mother D, but it's top here. She is the gatekeeper.
Does Mother Control lose to itself?
Man,
Yes.
that's a tough question. Yeah.
I mean,
Where's
think
my
so.
feels time and round here?
I don't even want to imagine that mirror. That has to be one of the most miserable mirror matches in the game. It has to be. There's no way it's not.
it's the Metapod versus Metapod matchup.
It really is. It legitimately just is.
Like,
Yeah. No, I think that's fine. I think it's like I think that's the bottom of meta defining because it is the gatekeeper to being like, if you are better than me at defining the meta, then you deserve to be up here.
yeah. Fair.
With that in mind, I think it's actually above Imperial. I think it defines the meta more than Imperial does because you have to keep in mind just all the blockers, tamer control. Like your deck has to be able to DP climb high enough or get around blockers to deal with it. And decks in Contender can do that. Decks in meta defining can do that. But if you're rogue pick or lower, you're struggling a bit with that. You're not.
Can Imperial even do that?
Imperial can, because they have tech things like high-speed plugin and stuff like that. They also can use Primogenitor to get free evos to prevent like blocker deletions and do other weird stuff. They also can wideboard pretty effectively too, because Mother can pass over a lot of memory at times.
Yeah, they can out wideboard it. It's just
You also can
It's
lock down
awkward.
evos and stuff. Like if they try and ace evo you can punish it. So, but yeah, so I think that's fine. Moving on. This is Lord Knight Ace, so this is like the more like Lord Knight Tribal or like Dark Knight variants of it.
oh man.
Yeah, it doesn't DP climb high enough. I'll put it at the top. I think it's better than Millenni. I think it's on the verge of being like somewhere in Pilot or Rogue because you can definitely do some funny stuff with it.
It's an interesting deck. The knight variant is really cool. It's just
the purple base. The Dog Knight just go burr.
yeah. It wideboards. The other deck just wideboards better and like actually DP climbs better in a lot of situations.
Yeah. Purple hybrid. I think this is just a contender.
Oh really?
I don't because
Yes.
yeah, because it's. I mean, if you think about it, it hasn't been topping enough to really be meta defining.
Yeah, fair.
It's a consistently good deck that there's not really much you can do about it. You just kind of have to see if you can win against it.
Right.
It's like Red Hybrid.
Yeah, I would agree. It's pretty much, but Red Hybrid's just more explosive, I think, than Purple Hybrid is. Purple Hybrid just probably has better control, which is crazy to say, but yeah. I think that's good. I think that's fine. Yeah, because I think it's doing more than Magna and Mirage are, but I don't think it's doing as good as Red Hybrid is. Moving on. Lucy Control. Lucimon Tribal.
Where do you think this one goes? Because I haven't played too much.
I like it a lot. I feel like it's kind of like almost like a worse Demon Lords really at the end of the day because you don't get the cost reduction stuff.
Yeah, so much of your plays like just past turn. I've been noticing with the deck.
I think it's pilot oriented. I think you really have to make sure you maximize on your plays as much as you can. There's definitely times where you can make the wrong call on how you want to spend your big chunk of memory. You just have to make sure you make the right one.
Yeah.
The deck is scary though. It can definitely do some decent stuff. Trashing security is pretty spooky. I think it's better than Omni Ace. I'll put it below Birds though. I think Birds actually has higher potential than Lucy Control. I mean, as evident of just records that we've seen for toppings.
Yeah.
Fish. Fish is weirdly a deck that I think actually has a really good matchup into Mother Control because of the new Huankun being able to ignore redirects.
Yeah.
And then Decode just saying, I don't care about your ace effects most of the time. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll just
However,
spit up level 5 and I'll do it again.
It just loses to everything else. And Ryugu's just been taken by Galaxy Core and just being like, you are mine now. It's the
Yep.
it's the Virgil meme of give that to me. that's what Galaxy Core does with Ryugu. Jorel, when you go play fish?
Or does with everything.
True. When you go play fish, Jorel?
When I get fucking all of my yows. I'm missing one more. I need mics.
Are you talking about your alt arts?
Yeah.
Until then,
Okay.
you know what? I'm gonna be gracious here.
I'm also
Yeah.
missing one more Ryugu.
I think its strategy's decent and fast enough because I mean it's just a blue deck, right? It just can run trainings.
Yeah.
It can run Hammer Spark. It can run boosts. It's not super reliant on like seeing you need to see a bunch of tamers. You just run the yows, call it a day.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that's fine. And then you just run like it also is a really good option. That Exorcism of the Sea God what was it?
Oh, yeah.
Watsatsumi
The 5.
something
Yeah.
a purification. I can't remember the first part, but it's good. That's a good option card with Ryugu.
Yeah,
Rose
the one
Burn.
that bottom decks level 4, but if you bottom deck like one of your blue Digimon, it's like a 6 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was literally just gonna build the list he showed off in his recent video.
Let's see. All right, Dynasmon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to like Dynus.
I love it.
I
I
want Dynus
love
to be
it.
better than it actually is, because I like the deck a lot. I just think like
You know what?
it is too fair.
I'm gonna do this. I think
Okay.
Trashing Security is good. I think it has good potentials. It just has some of it has really hard lose matchups.
Yeah.
It is very a lot of never mind. This is just it's got a lot of hard lose
Yeah.
matchups. It's got a lot of hard lose matchups. The deck does have like on paper very strong effects: Trashing Security, Security Recovery, pretty solid protections against just leaving play. Climbs DP reduces. It has all the tools it needs, but that's built on the back of burning your life, of burning your security to get there. And sometimes with certain decks nowadays, you just burn too much and you just lose.
Oddly enough, the one thing that it wants to do, which is like DP minus stuff, it doesn't really have protection against that.
Yeah, no, it does not.
And like you're spending all this time going into Dynus, and then somebody says, "Oh, hey, look, I got this dog minus 16k DP to your guy," and then he's just gone.
Well, here's the thing. Actually, you can sit pretty easily at like 24k on
you
your
can,
opponent's
you
turn.
can sit at like you can sit at like 18, 24k, pretty reliably.
So you can get around that, but the extra -8 is what does you in. It's the extra
Yeah.
-8 from Kazuchi
from the end of
Inheritable.
the turn, yep.
That's just like, oh, okay, so there's the -24. that's the rest of the damage done. Yeah, so we'll just leave it there. That's fine. It's a good deck. I think
I like it a lot. It's just
it's better than Fish.
weak,
I think it's better than Fish. I think it's worse than Millenni.
Probably.
I think Millenni does better stuff. I think Lord Knight with Dark Knight Engine just has better control stuff as well. DG also strong effect. Royal Base. Royal Base.
Nice.
Need Anthony here.
Okay, here's the thing.
Think it's Rogue?
No. Well, you think Rogue? Is that what you said, Jorel?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a neat gimmick. It doesn't do a lot.
Do you think it can beat Mother Control?
It has
That
Alliance.
I don't know.
It has Alliance. It has Piercing with
Yeah.
because you can get Alliance with Shieldlin under your Tiger Vespa and unsuspend and swing 2 checks with Piercing.
That's true.
Because outside of what Queen Bee, it doesn't really have. It actually doesn't even have any protection.
No, nothing. Well, Forge Bee. Forge Bee is like super decoy for the entire deck as long as they have Royal Basing traits. Where when they would leave play, he can put himself face up into security to prevent that Digimon from to prevent all. It works like Dimini effect, where it prevents all from leaving play.
Yeah, but that's also 4 cards out of the whole deck.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a lot of times
So
that's
is
most
Dimini.
protections. Yeah, I was gonna say that's like most protections if we want to make that the.
I still find it funny that people are trying to cook. What was it? Which level? Oh, Doru Grey.
It makes sense. I get it. I like it.
Decks anymore.
It's just tough that you have 4 cost evos on the top end
Yeah.
then. But it's funny.
That's when you use Protoform.
I mean, hey man, I'm just saying, you put that under Tiger Vespa, put Shu Yulin under him, Get something on board. Swing 3 alliance, 3 checks, unsuspend. Swing at least
Can't
2 more
be
checks.
deleted or TP.
Yeah, you're just a big guy. So I just feel like it loses so hard to so many other decks. It does really cool things, but I think it's just like the strategy of it kind of plays too slow. You know what? Let's put bottom of Rogue. I feel like we haven't seen enough of it being played yet to rule it too much. We'll put it at bottom of Rogue.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like we've seen all of the mother control decks, so we know where they kind of stand in the meta, which it feels really bad that basically all of the new decks are down there, and it's really just old decks aside from like purple hybrid, and a little bit of support that things have gotten.
Where this comes in.
Yeah.
Shoot to the top.
Yeah, it is just a boogeyman. I think. All right, here's my take on Lord Knight. I think that Lord Knight actually is a worse deck than Fenry.
Yeah, I think so.
However, I think that Lord Knight's mechanics can be played around more than Fenry's, because Fenry just says, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Lord Knight has to play smart enough around it to get around there, but people all just run floodgates to stop it and shut it down to make sure it doesn't do what it wants to do efficiently.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just reskinned Anubis Levia, no?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It even just runs the Anubis.
Yeah, it runs one of Anubis, runs one of Levia or Levia X, depending on your preference.
And this is the reason your protoforms are $50.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's about to go up even higher with that new War Growl. That new War Growl look good. Get your protoforms now. They're about to be 70. I'm calling it now, Brother Bear. I'm calling.
You have a commentator's curse.
Commentator curse this. I am the prophet.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, I think it's up there. I just think it's more meta. I think Fenry's the better deck, like I said, to be clear, so everyone just understands that. I don't think that Lord Knight is the best deck in the format by any means. I think it has plenty of cracks in the armor. I just think those cracks in the armor are very exploitable, and that's why it's the most meta defining, because people are making sure to exploit those cracks so that it can't do better than what it does right now.
Nice 15k body there. It'd be a shame if I just popped it with a 16k ancient creep.
Yeah, exactly. No protections. If you don't see Deltamon and they just put like a floodgate out, you're just like, oh, I guess I'm not doing anything now. I guess I'm playing the game fairly.
Yeah, I guess I'm crying.
So we'll put it up there. It definitely, like, if we were going like what's best deck in format, I think that this would be a very different list. However, this is going off of our how we rate the tiers.
Yeah.
This is Moonwalking. Galaxy Core, Mirage Galaxy, however you want to refer to it. I don't even think it's really Mirage Galaxy at this point anymore. The top end is so split.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's just like Galaxy Toolbox.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best term for it. Galaxy Toolbox. Risu really wants to push Moonwalking, so that's why I've been trying to I've been trying to help him out. But Galaxy Toolbox is probably the more official way of referring to it, because they run Hexablow, they run Ryugu now, they run Apollo.
It's whatever the Galaxy Core can run to play as the better, like whatever the best top end for blue is.
Yeah.
That's what it's doing.
And Coincide is a crack card. I think this is also meta defining.
I think so at this point too. It's been around for so long, and it's changing. Like the top end of the core changes according to what's needed in the meta.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree, and I think the people tech as much as they can against it. Yeah. They try and keep it in mind.
It is
their stuff.
I think it is a very pilot intensive deck, but
I agree.
You know, meta. It's still. I would say it's still meta defining, just because
I think
it's just adapting. It's adapting so well to how everyone else plays that it's hard to push it out of the meta.
I agree. I think you're right. I think it could definitely be at the top of pilot oriented, but I think it would still be. I think it is actually at the top of pilot oriented, to be clear. But I think it's also meta defining, where it's at, because I think the core is so solved now for what you want to do with the toolbox, and then from there you just sort of tech in top end where you feel like you need it, or you adjust ratios ever so slightly if it makes you feel more cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's fine. Demon Lords.
Demon Lords. Ooh.
I want to say.
Man, I want to say this is kind of rogue, maybe low end of contenders.
I think
just
it's
not.
higher. I think it's been doing pretty good. Actually, I guess it hasn't topped.
It has been doing really good, but yeah, 2.0, it's really hard to say.
Just because there's 2.0 yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's a big
Is this
thing?
not pilot oriented?
Demon Lords?
It can be, but like sometimes it just does. It does. It has such strong plays.
I was gonna say I think its floor is low enough that it is just a contender.
Yeah. It's either the top of contender or like I don't know, maybe very, very bottom of meta defining. I don't know if it's meta defining yet. We'll have to see.
I don't think it's meta defining. I think it's in contenders. Yeah. I think it's
definitely worse than
right in the middle.
Purple hybrid and
red hybrid.
Yeah.
But I think it does wonders against things like Magna, and Mirage is also. Mirage just loses to it most of the time because you put a Lucamon Chaos mode on board with Levia and trash, and they just have to scoop at that point. You just call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it's a contender because I think it is. I don't think you're wrong, Jorel. I think it does need a good pilot to do it, but I think that the floor is still high enough that it can still do well, and I don't think it's the hardest thing to learn compared to like Birds or Omni Ace because those decks are so much more fragile in their game plans. Where Gate's like, okay, I see a body on board, I need to delete it. Which card of mine deletes it? Okay, I play that card.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to.
A bit more than that, but that's to simplify.
Which of your cards you're gonna play because you do need to maximize.
Yeah, you can
a lot of plays, but it's pretty like as somebody who plays it a lot, it's not that hard to like learn the basics of what you're doing and get by. It's just that there's a lot of nuanced plays that can be difficult to see.
Yeah.
But that's so many decks, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Let's move on. Domini. 3 Great Angels. I want to say bottom of contenders. Top of Rogue. It's had actually more tops than a lot of these decks.
Good. Yeah, it's been doing like pretty solid.
It runs 4 Domini, 4 Cherubi Ace. Pack them up. That's the meta for it.
I have Alliance. You can't get rid of Cherubi Ace. Try it. Cherubi Ace is such a good card. Such a good card.
There's a reason it's like the second most expensive SR in the game right now.
Yeah.
Right behind Protoform. At least I think it's still. Actually, I don't know. The Lucamon Chaos mode from EX6 might be more expensive now. That card was like 30 something, right?
Yeah. Well, I think last time I checked it was 50.
I think it's better.
40.
I think it's better than Mirage and V armors. Genuinely, I think it has. I just think we're not seeing too many people play it right now, but I think people sleep on it. I think that this deck is very good still. We saw it top a good bit, and it's just hard to remove. Domini is such a powerful card.
Yeah, Domini is definitely a very, very strong card.
Okay, getting on to sort of the tail end here, we have Levia.
Oh man,
pure Levia.
Just pure Levia. I think it's one of those decks that does struggle against Mother Control, right? Because you're just not big enough to.
You have some tamer control. Sometimes you can go a bit faster than them. They almost always will have more bodies on board than you because of the tamers. I want to say Rogue because we are seeing it still do decent stuff. If it dodges Mother, it still has decent matchups into almost everything else.
But the problem is also requires dodging Mother.
Right, exactly. Well, Mother. The weird thing is Mother's not that oppressive right now. It's around enough to be something you need to consider.
Yeah,
but it's also it's not like Imperial where it's like, oh, okay, I might have like 3 Imperial matches today.
Yeah, I think it's just around. It is just like the boogeyman, you know. It's there to stop a lot of decks, and you know, can perform pretty well, depending on the pilot. But
I think it gatekeeps other rogue decks.
Yeah, I mean the issue here is that Levia uses the exact same core that Lord Knight uses, and as far as like controlling the board, de-digivolve and like collision with piercing, those are really, really strong effects. Plus Alliance, that it's just a better, like another deck just has a better top end, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I think that's about it. As for Zafaga and Sendril,
I think they're in Feels Mother control.
I think Sendril. I think Zafaga's in pilot oriented. I think the deck can actually do a lot. It does have protections. It does have Vortex.
It does have DP climbing.
It DP climbs really well. It's just a very hard deck to play because you really have to structure your plays out. And I think if anything, its only real big issue is it can be a little bit slow.
Yeah.
With having to get like Timber set up.
It does.
And then it gets rated into.
Yeah.
The funny thing is it can sit higher than Emperor on its turn pretty handedly with the right stuff. But it's
until I shove 5 different hybrids under Takuya Koji and I'm all of a sudden I'm 24k.
All right, you right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't. I apologize for having a thought. I shouldn't have spoken. My overlord. I apologize.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what?
Let's just Supreme.
I think in our mind palace here. I think
I
Safaga,
would put it in pilot. I would put it in pilot oriented.
Yeah, I think Sendril though. I think Sendril goes like maybe top of Feels Mother control because sometimes they can just wideboard really well. And we've seen it do like okay, it just hasn't gotten like a proper topping yet.
Overclock is a crazy mechanic that Sendril. What? Yeah.
It's blitz on me. It's built-in blitz on me.
Yeah, but Sendril can't like quite use it as well.
Yeah. Just too fair as you like to say. But I think it could also be at like bottom of pilot below Zafaga, I think. But I think it's most likely top of Mother control if we were to splice it in here.
I feel you there. I'm with you there.
I think this is pretty good. I think
I think it's a solid list. You know, this is early in the meta. A lot of these are going to be like our predictions and feelings based on anecdotal evidence. Once
we
haven't fully.
The other thing is we only have like 2 or so regionals left in NA before, or not even 2. I don't even know. If
I think there's one like store regional left, or something, or one in-person regional left. That's it in NA, and then we're out of competitive season for us.
Yep.
There's nothing else.
Go straight to Nets.
I don't know about any. I don't think there's any Ulti Cups either. I think that's it.
No, I think we're done. We're in the end game.
Tail end. Yeah. So I think that'll about do it here for the list. I think that we're pretty good with the choices. I think you're right. This is early on. We do have this format for pretty much like 2 more months. We get the LM cards, but there's nothing new in there really aside from the boosts.
Yeah.
Scrambles.
At the scrambles, which the scrambles actually are pretty big. That might
scrambles are massive.
yeah, scrambles are pretty big. So this will be subject to change after LMO4, and we get to see how scrambles and the new memory boosts sort of help out their individual decks and colors. But as of right now, I think this is pretty solid, and we can always look over it towards like the end of the month to kind of review it a bit more, or end of this format as we get towards EX8.
For sure.
So, I think that'll about do it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. If you have any thoughts, comment them down below. Let us know what you think. If we're completely wrong and we, should get taken out back to Gold Yeller, let us know.
Oh my God.
Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're off base. Hey, Ben's not here. He can't keep us straight down anymore.
No, it's the children who are wrong.
But if we're wrong, tell us. Let us know. If you think that we pretty good about this, also let us know. We'd like to be in agreement with some people too. We're pretty confident with our picks, but we'll obviously we're human. We only know so much.
I'm trying to fight everyone.
That's true. You are a judge. You have ascended human. But yeah, so thank you guys again for watching. Hope you guys, if you like this, drop a like.
Take care, everybody. Jorel signing out.
Jorel, Arby, are you signing out?
Yeah.
No.
There it is. Okay, Arby staying. Jorel signing out. And this is Ben with. We'll catch you on that flippy flip. Bye bye.
Bye.